Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Thursday, August 8th, 2019. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Thursday, everyone. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. You'll notice here that price has developed higher highs and higher lows day over day after the rejection here that we saw a few days back at the 2775s. Price is very, very close to getting the midpoint of the impulse sell-off here. Remember that midpoint is 2902.63, and we're very, very close to reaching that midpoint. The reason why that is important is because it would give us a new key range here. So from this high, price sold off tremendously until it reached this low, and then it's very close to getting that midpoint. May not reach it, but for all intents and purposes, it likely will reach that midpoint here today. And when it does, it gives us a new key range with great boundaries to watch ahead. It gives us targets and extensions down the road should we break out from this range. But this range is going to be very important. Once we reach that range, these key levels are set in stone, and then we can watch the edges down here for rejections back higher. We can watch the rejection up here at the highs for a move back below. And we can also look for expansion and extensions outside the range. For example, if eventually we were able to break to the upside, we would be looking at a move up to the 3283 level. That would be the 100% target up above. 3283, 3156 would be the 50% expansion of that range. If we were to break to the downside, we'd be looking at 2529 as the downside target, which coincides very nicely with that LVN down below. So we have great levels to watch here down the road. As of right now, we're likely still to hit that target sometime today, perhaps tomorrow, as this thing continues to bounce. Remember, we could bounce even as high as the 2960s here and still be a selling opportunity for a double dip and a retest of this low down the way. So while the short term appears to be strong, or at least moving higher, we could be looking at another medium-term decline down the road. So we'll continue to watch that as it plays out. If we take a look here at the NQ, very similar price action right now. This one's also close to reaching that midpoint. The midpoint of the range is right here at 76.38. So we have higher highs and higher lows over the last few days, and this has a little bit more until we reach the 76.38. Once we do, we have a very clear key range that is in play. 80.51 on the high. We have the 72.24s on the low, and then we also have that midpoint here, which would become a very important key level. Again, usually the edges are very, very good spots to watch for rejection. So if price were to get below this key range low, we can look for a fade back up. If we were to see expansion one way or another, we could be looking at a move to the upside of 88.79. 88.79. If we broke to the downside, then we'd be looking at a move down towards 6,400. So right now, looking for this thing to continue to push quietly higher into that midpoint to seal the deal. Alright, taking a look here at crude oil now. This one had a tremendous sell-off in the previous session. Price dropped tremendously throughout the day and eventually took out the key range low. So over here we already have a key range from 64 as the high, down here at 50.5 on the low. Price came down there and took out the low by 8 ticks and then bounced pretty tremendously into the end of the day. Really, after the RTH close for crude oil, it bounced and managed to close above the midpoint of the day. Being able to reject this low is very important, but it also completes the move that we talked about before. If we cannot hold the 55s, the only level next to test would be down here at 50, that 50.6, which was the low. We did that, and now we're seeing a bounce. Are we going to see more weakness ahead, or is this bounce going to lead to a return back toward the 57s? If you look back here, the 50 level or 50.5 level has been major support all year long. You can see all the support here, here, and now here. It's only traded below that level 5 days this year, the first 5 days of the year. After that, everything has been above it. So that's a very important level. If it can continue to hold that zone, we could bounce right back up toward 57, 57.5. Failure to hold that level, again, very similar to what I talked about here, would have key levels down below at about 42.5. So nothing until 42.5 when it comes to support. So if we cannot hold 50, there's going to be quite a tumble down below to reach that next support level. So this is an important zone to continue to watch for crude oil. Lastly, taking a look at gold futures. This one rallied tremendously in the previous session, reaching as high as 1522.70, getting very close to that 1525 level. For all intents and purposes, that 1525 has been completed as a target. We talked about that level back here when we broke through that zone. We mentioned before, if it can break through 1375, it has 1525 as the next upside target. After that, we could be looking at range-bound activity between 1440 and 1525 for a while. Perhaps price even drops as low as 1375. Again, we have not retested that zone since price saw expansion through that level. But if we did see a retest of that area, it would be a zone here to defend and return back to new highs. As we've talked about before, even in the weekly time frame here, this level has been significant, and we now have a 1525 that comes all the way back to the 2012 zone, 2011 zone, and even 2013. All of that right there was prior support, and price in the 1375 zone hasn't been auctioned very well between 1375 and 1525. It's been going right through that zone time and time again. So again, we may spend a little bit of time trading in this area, but if it were able to get above 1525 and find acceptance, the only level next to test would be up here near 1800. So 1800 would be the next key level above once price is able to find acceptance above 1525. At the moment, again, it wouldn't surprise me if we start to top out just a hair and pull back a bit. Any pullback, even if it's into the trigger zone, could still be a buying opportunity for a retest of this high, or perhaps a push through it. Alright, that is it for now. We'll see how this develops the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.